Hello everyone, hope you're doing well. Today we are going to go through the sales nations and what to pick up, at least from my opinion. One of the things to note when it comes to War Thunder is the sales that are going on right now, they're coming in blocks. So for 3 nations at a time, you can get 30% off premiums for GE and also stuff such as Talismans, as you can see here. Now, a few people have asked for me to make these videos, so what we're going to do is we're going to do a video for each of the different nations and go through basically my general picks when it comes to Talismans and also when it comes to the actual GE vehicles themselves. We'll start off with Japan because it's pretty much the easiest one to do at this point. So when it comes to Japan for ground, there is 2 picks which make the most sense to me. The first one is, of course, the Chinu 2. The Chinu 2 is a fantastic vehicle. It did go up in BR recently, but also at the same time, it doesn't really matter. And the reason for this is because the vehicle is good enough to go up to 4.7, and that's basically where I run it personally. This is one of my event lineups, and when it comes to event lineups, these are the lineups which I see as the best in the game to be able to get the summer events done and also the winter events done. And at 4.7 you have the Cheeto and the Cheeto Late, and you also have the Chinu 2. You also have backup from air superiority fighters, which mean that getting kills, especially against stuff like American Cass, is easy to do. Now, when it comes to the Chinu 2 itself, what it is a slightly weaker chassis on top of the with a turret which has access to a gun which is higher BR than it. So slightly slower, slightly weaker in that regard, but very, very powerful gun with really good gun depression and overall great penetration and explosive mass on the round. If you pen something with this round, you will kill it. And at 4.3, you will be able to pen everything with it, so you'll be able to kill it. You can even run this thing right now. If you want to, you can run it as a top vehicle and then run it with stuff like the Chaffee if you want to. And also the M19A1, that's a pretty solid lineup if you want to do that, if you don't want to run it at 4.7 and drag it up in BR. But overall, you can just have a really good time with this one because of its gun and because of its general characteristics. It also is a medium, so that means that you get a full turret, which is quite nice. You also get access to the artillery support, which is really good, and the bonuses that you have on it. Now, understand I do have a booster on right now, but 450 is pretty good overall, but it is obviously a bit less than that in general because I have the booster going. And the actual RP that you get is really nice as well. At rank 3, you can research all of rank 4, 3, 2, and 1 with the vehicle, which is really nice. Japan, when it comes to its tech tree, it has a pretty rough rank 1 until you get to the Hoai and then the Chiha Kai. Then it actually starts getting a little bit good. And then when it comes to its rank 4, there are some really good lineups here. But the major issue is you need to get the vehicles mostly spaded for them to be good. So it can be a bit of a pain to be able to get through them. But the Chinu 2 means that you can grind out a lot of this tech tree with just that vehicle and then start forming very good lineups around these BRs with these 3 vehicles. So overall, a really, really nice pick. The next one is the Hori prototype. The Hori prototype is at 6.7, once again 30% off, and nowadays it actually has a lineup for it. Don't bother with this vehicle, it's trash, but the Type 60 SPRG is a very good light tank first spawn. You can get a lot of scouts off and a lot of flanks. The Type 61 is a very basic MBT, but it works very, very well. It's basically just a lighter version of the M47, and then you've got the STA3, which is the Type 61 with an autoloader. So it has a better reload than it, and also has a 50 cal on the top. The STA3 I've actually had a really, really good time with in general when it comes to the game. You can see 111 to 67, and stuff like the STA1, you know, I've gone positive with as well. Even the STA2, I've nearly gone positive with. But generally, the vehicles around these BRs are very good vehicles. They just need spading, right? Like the STA1 and STA2, they have really nice guns, and they have really nice optics on them, which is really surprising for the vehicles themselves. And they also have a pretty nice heat round with the 90mm, meaning that they can go through any heavy tank at the BR. But they have a real issue, which is the fact that they are bouncy and slow until you get the engine upgrades, and that's a bit of an issue. The STA3 and Type 61 are slightly better, and with the Hori prototype, you can run them as a lineup, meaning that you can get a TD in here, which has very good RP rewards on it, which is really nice, and also good gun depression, and you can angle so the armor's a bit more effective, which is quite nice as well. It's still not going to be fully effective, but generally it's going to be quite good. It's quite survivable because of the fact that it has the 6-man crew as well. And if you shoot the front, which a lot of people do, what they do is they shoot this bit because it's like, oh, it's flat. Then you'll only take out these 3, and then you'll be able to shoot back. And as a part of the lineup, as a part of the 6-7 lineup, it works fantastically well. It's got a really powerful gun on it with a really nice shell on it, so you're only going to struggle to pen a few of the heavy tanks where you normally would pen them. And also the reload isn't too bad, and because generally when you hit a target it's going to go pop. It's not going to survive, which is quite nice. So the only issue really with it is its armor isn't always the best, and its reverse isn't the greatest. So when you get into situations, you can't honestly get out all the time, so that's a little bit rough. But the lineup itself is really good, and this can research all of rank 5 and then all of, the rest of the tech tree. So overall it can have a really good time. It can also be a pretty good event lineup, the prototype and then these 2 and then maybe the light tank. Aircraft wise for it, it's a little bit rough. Like there isn't too much at 6-7 to run, but you can still add in, some interesting vehicles if you want to. The other GE vehicles, like the Type 75 MLRS, I wouldn't waste your time. They're a lot of money for what you get, and it would be much better instead of spending this, picking up like the pack, which will probably be on sale over the next week. So for ground, just the Hori prototype and the Tuner 2 would be my picks. The other thing as well to note is stuff like the Chihi 5th Regiment would be a really nice pick, but also at the same time, when it comes to low-tier vehicles, these starter packs usually go on sale as well, and they usually have the Chihi 5th Regiment and other vehicles like it. When it comes to the aviation side of things, there is really only one champion of this, and it's actually a pack vehicle, and hopefully it goes on sale next week, and that's the A6M5 Co. This is actually in the Pacific pack that you can pick up, and you can use it to pretty much research the vast majority of the tree, all of rank 5 and below. So yeah, that's a definite pickup, but that's unfortunately not on offer right now. The picks which are on offer, first of all, you have the F4U1A. This one is, I still don't understand why this vehicle has never gone up in BR. Not just this one, but also the one in the actual American tech tree, this one here, the 2.7 one. They're really, really good vehicles. And the only thing with the Japanese one is it doesn't get access to extra armaments like the American one does. But it's really odd to me that it's never gone up in BR, because this is one of the best energy fighters at its BR in the game, and it has been for a long time. It also has insane SL rewards on it, so this can be one of those vehicles that you go back to be able to farm SL if you have an issue with that. I know a lot of people have issues with SL. This one's really nice for doing that, and at rank 2 it means that you can efficiently research rank 3, 2 and 1. It's a vehicle that has longevity in battle. It's got a lot of ammunition, it's got an engine which doesn't cook itself, and also at the same time, it does take a little bit of time to get into position because the rate of climb isn't the best, but overall it's just a really, really good boom and zoom aircraft. I suppose boom and zoom has kind of gone out of fashion when it comes to War Thunder, but it is still one of the strongest ways to play the game. So for me, this F4U1A Corsair is a fantastic pickup. It's one of those premiums I've never picked up because I've always seen it as overpowered. It's as simple as that. And I still think it is to this day. And I'm amazed that it hasn't gone up in BR ever. But yeah, this is a really good vehicle. And it's not just good in air, it's also good in ground. The reason for that is because with ground targets or tracers, you have up to 30 millimeters of pen, so you can actually top down a lot of vehicles with it. And at 2.7, at least in the army area, you do have an okay lineup with the Chi-He and then the Chi-Ha-Kai. And then some other elements as well, like the M16, so you can actually be combat effective with it. Another vehicle that has to be looked at from an air superiority point of view is the A7M NK9H. This is at rank 3, so it's good for researching rank 4 and below. Once again, ridiculous rewards on the vehicle when it comes to SL. And also, at the same time, does get 260 kilo bombs, so you can at least overpressure something in ground when you're using it. This vehicle is a hybrid. It can do anything that you want. It can energy fight, it can boom and zoom, it can turn fight. There is a reason why, at least in the Japanese tree, for me, one of my favorite vehicles is the A7M2 Repu that you can see here. And the A7M1 is very similar to it, just slightly weaker, but also has a slightly weaker BR as well to kind of counteract that. It does have the Type 99 20mm, which aren't some of the best in the game, but they're still good enough with enough ammunition to be able to carry a team. They also have 13.2s as well to do a little bit of damage, but this is a fantastic vehicle when it comes to grinding and when it comes to just generally playing the game. This is really, really good as a vehicle, the A7M1. Definitely worth it when it comes to the price of it. The price is ridiculously cheap for this thing. There are a few other picks, like, the J2M4Kai is a pretty interesting one. I'm pretty sure this is a GE premium. It might also have been taken out of the game, so I'm not sure about that one. But generally, those two are pretty nice. The P51C 11NT is also an okay pick, just because of the fact that it's going to be very similar to the French one that's coming in. And once again, pretty good SL rewards on it. It's just your standard P51C, so the 450 cals, decent engine. It does get the late war belts, which is quite nice on it, instead of the early war belts. And it does get the V1657, which can also work very well. But this is a decent grinder, but I think the Corsair and the A7M1 are probably better options. There's no really good kind of ground or naval support vehicles here. They're more found in the tech tree itself. When it comes to naval, there are a few picks, but not many that I would recommend. Also, at the same time, I don't really play helicopters, so I can't really give you comment on the Kisarazu. But when it comes to naval, looking at the blue water stuff, the Mikuma would be a pretty okay pick. It's going to get beaten up by the higher tier stuff, though. That's the issue right now. A lot of these heavy cruisers, which are premiums, got outdone when they started adding in battle cruisers and battleships. But this thing still has ridiculous rewards on it, especially when it comes to SL. So you can make a ton of SL with it. You're just gonna, you're just gonna die quite a lot while doing it. And the other thing to also mention is when it comes to these vehicles, I was spading just some rank 1 and rank 2 destroyers the other day, and I made 1 million SL in a day. So if you're looking for SL grinders, the naval stuff is definitely the way to go with this. The Mikuma has a ton of guns on it. It has 15 155mm. It has some 4 inches as well in the center to help it out, and it also has a bunch of 25s and 13.2s. This is a primary vehicle to take out, so first spawn, because it can't really defend itself against planes, and generally it's a good vehicle. It just gets beaten up by the meta stuff, so you got to be a little bit careful with it, but it's great for SL grinding and great for general tech tree grinding. The Yubari I wouldn't bother with. It's very similar to a lot of the heavy cruisers and light cruisers that you see around here. The issue when it comes to Japanese naval is it has this whole line here, and also the Kako, of terrible vehicles, and they just don't feel very good at all to play. So it might be worth maybe talismaning stuff instead to be able to go through it. The Satsuki is just a Matsuki. The Hayanami is obviously not available, and neither is the Yogur. It would be nice if they added in like a GE vehicle for rank 2 here, so it would be easier for people to grind. When it comes to the coastal stuff, the PGO2 isn't a bad pick. It's a vehicle which you can use quite a lot to be able to do the naval events. A lot of people do. Anything that is within 2 kilometers of you will instantly die thanks to the gun that's on the front of it, and also at the same time it's incredibly fast, and they fixed the steering issues for it, which were apparent around the place for a little bit. So it's really nice to see this thing on offer. It's also near the high echelons of the coastal fleet tree, so you can research it. You can research the whole tree with the PGO2 if you wanted to. It's got pretty good RP rewards on it, and you can run it with a lineup of the Chikugo and also the PT-15 or the Ikazuchi if you have any of them. The PT-15's one of the better PT boats in the game, and the Chikugo isn't great, but it has a quite nice gun on the front of it and can be hard to kill nowadays with the changes to damage models. So overall, it's not a bad pick. The Akebono is also not a terrible pick either. It basically has the 3-inch guns on it as its main, and then it has the 240s in the center. So this thing can be a little bit hard to kill as well, but mainly I think the PGO2 is a better pick. Now, talismans are a bit interesting because I don't really use them. The only talismans I actually have are from the Warbond shop and also from random ones. But talismans give your vehicles plus 100% RP, but don't give you any extra SL bonuses. So they're very good for researching all modifications on a vehicle and also researching other vehicles, but they will screw you in the SL income. So you've got to remember that when getting these things. If you talisman a bunch of your vehicles and then, I'm getting the SL income, then that's basically why. When it comes to vehicles that I think are maybe worth talismaning in the ground side of things, I think stuff like the Cheeto Late is worth having a look at to be able to get through some of these vehicles and also get into these vehicles. The SDA-3 is a really, really strong vehicle once it is researched to the fullest. So once you've spaded it, got all the modifications, and also you can use it to research all these vehicles which are right here. Nowadays, Japan is in a lot better of a space than it was before, so talismaning vehicles isn't as necessary because you actually have some lineups around which can work very well. The 8.7 for the Type 74 might be worth talismaning because you can actually use this to grind out the whole of the higher tier stuff if you want to, but generally going through these things and researching everything and spading it and pushing through, you won't run into any roadblocks like you used to. Like I got stuck on stuff like the old Type 74 because basically there wasn't enough to research here to get into rank 7 and not have a ton of RP left to go for. With the Type 74, you can see that I've done pretty well in it, plus 120 over 193 battles, but I also only have a 50% win rate. And this is something that you'll see with a lot of Japanese tanks. My STB, right, I'm plus like 30 in it, 42% win rate. Type 61, 49% win rate, going, average. So generally, a lot of my experiences with Japanese vehicles is lower win rates, but at the same time doing pretty well in them. Like the Type 74C right here at 8.0, we went plus 22 in it over 70 battles, literally 37% win rate, and the Type 87 as well. There's a lot of very odd BRs and very rough ones. It's kind of similar to my Israeli ones, which are around right now. So yeah, if you're thinking of talismaning stuff to try and get through lineups, the Type 74F isn't that bad. The Type 74C maybe, but I would go for the STA-3 for at least the army side of things. Aviation wise, the premiums are a lot better than talismaning anything really. There are a ton of really strong vehicles in the tech tree. When it comes to the Japanese stuff, I think maybe the B7A2, getting a talisman for that, because you can use this in naval, ground, and air. It's useful in everything. So it has a really nice torpedo, and it also gets access to an 800 kilo bomb. So you can use that very effectively. The A6M5s are really good to be able to play in aviation, but not really anything else. The Key 84 Co is one of my favorite vehicles in the game, one of the first that I really started getting used to and doing well in. That can research all of rank 5, rank 3 and 4, which is quite nice. The lower tier stuff, the Key 44s, are very good. You've just got to be a bit careful because their guns don't do that much damage. So that is something to think about. So maybe the Key 44-1 Shoki might be worth talismaning, but also at the same time you can get the starter pack, which has one of these in it, which is probably going to be cheaper than doing the talisman stuff. The Zeros are not bad to talisman either if you like their playstyle. That can work pretty well as well. And the Key 61s, the early ones at least, like the this one, the Hien or the Otsu, both of these fly fantastically well and have some really nice characteristics. When it comes to the naval stuff, just put a talisman on the Shimikaze. You know, oh, it's not actually discounted. Never mind. Don't put a talisman on the Shimikaze. If you want to put a talisman on something, maybe the Yugamo. It's really cheap, and you can research through all of these. Dross, the only nice vehicle here is the Akizuki, and that's still not a very good one. It's just a worse American destroyer. So the Yugamo with its torpedoes, you can just sit at the side of the map and just fire your long lances and just annihilate everything in arcade, which is pretty fun. I've also had a little bit of success with some of the other vehicles, but not really. So I'm not sure what I would talisman that I've played. With the coastal stuff, the vehicles that I've enjoyed the most are the premium ones, because pretty much all this tech tree is terrible. The only ones which are not too bad are the K3 and the K7. They have this 40mm on the front, which is your main armament, this one right here. So if you point your machine forward, you can get a ton of damage in. And the only issue is if they shoot the front of your boat, then you're out of action because they knock out the 40mm, and also you tend to explode. So that's definitely a problem with it. You set on fire a lot with these ones. So maybe talisman these, but obviously I would prefer to talisman something like the Chikugo if you have it, or maybe the PT-15 in general. I haven't got too far through the fleet stuff for Japan, but those would be my picks overall for talismans, just to have a bit of fun with. As always, I hope you have a wonderful day, and I'll see you next time. I'd just like to thank Merciless Reaper, Jerry Provolt, Mega Dino King, Professor X1718, Orange Tail, Sakoshi Tiger, Teddy, John Ryman, Universe, Eugens Terry, Ambrosius McClellan, Daniel Stanton, Martinez, Moxie, B. Young, and Derek R., Barine, Lafouche, and Samuel Slick for supporting the channel.